So, I want to share a story with you. And just to be clear, this isn't some dry biography. It's actually a really inspiring narrative, one that's built around the incredible ideas of Dr. Jason Fung on fasting. Really, it's a story about a journey from feeling completely powerless to finally regaining control.
Okay, let's just pause on this question for a second. Do you set out to win every day, only to return defeated every night? I mean, does that hit home for you? Because it gets right to the heart of this struggle that so many of us feel. You know that feeling, right? You start the day with all the best intentions. You're gonna nail it. And then by the end of the night, you just feel like you've lost the battle. Again. It's this awful feeling of being stuck in a loop you just can't seem to break out of.
Well, that feeling is exactly where our story begins. This first part, we're calling it the daily defeat. And to understand it, we need to meet someone. Let's call him Raghav. Because for him, this wasn't just a feeling, it was his everyday reality.
Just look at this cycle. This was Raghav's life, day in, day out. It was absolutely relentless. He'd wake up with a headache if he didn't have his tea right away. By 11 a.m., the craving for something sweet would just take over. Then came that awful post-lunch sleepiness, that heavy brain fog. And the evenings, that's when the cravings felt totally uncontrollable. But the worst part, the absolute worst part of it all, was the crushing guilt he felt every single night. He felt like he had zero control. None. And, after trying and failing at, everything, gyms he'd join and then quit after 2 weeks, diet plans that would be completely destroyed by just one party, he started to draw a conclusion. He started to believe these labels about himself. He just completely internalized all that failure. The problem, he told himself, wasn't the diet, it wasn't the gym. The problem was him. He was lazy, undisciplined, weak. But then, something shifted. He hit a turning point. It was one of those moments where you just stumble upon a completely different way of looking at things, a whole new idea. And this, right here, is where his story really begins to change.
And this is the core of it all. This is that huge mental shift. On one side, you have his old belief. I am lazy, I'm undisciplined, I'm weak. But then, inspired by Dr. Fung's work, a totally new idea took root. Wait a minute, what if I'm just misunderstanding my own body? This was the game changer. It wasn't about a lack of willpower. It was about a lack of the right information, the right understanding of how his body actually worked.
So what was this big idea? It was about fasting, but not the way you might think. For Raghav, this is what finally clicked. Fasting wasn't about punishing himself or starving himself. It wasn't even about eating less. It was a conscious choice, a decision to simply give his body a break between meals, to create a pause. And that simple, powerful reframe, it changed absolutely everything for him.
Now, you might think a huge change like this started with some big, dramatic moment, some heroic act, but it didn't. Not at all. It all started with just one single, incredibly small decision.
Just one. That's it. He didn't go and announce a 24-hour fast. He didn't post some motivational reel on Instagram. Nope. He just quietly told himself one simple thing. You know what? I'll just have breakfast a little bit later tomorrow. That's it. That was the tiny seed that the entire change grew from.
And in that tiny little delay, he learned something absolutely profound. When the usual hunger pangs showed up, instead of immediately reacting, he just watched them. He observed the feeling, and he realized, wow, this isn't a permanent 5-alarm fire. It's more like a wave. It rolls in, it peaks, and then it actually rolls back out. He learned for the first time that he didn't have to instantly obey its every command. You see, that one tiny act of observation, that was like laying the first brick in building a whole new identity for himself. An identity that wasn't founded on what he was missing out on, but on something much more powerful, conscious choice and real control.
And this right here, this became his new mantra. Think about it. When his colleagues were all eating pastries, the old Raghav would have felt that terrible pang of deprivation, of missing out. But the new Raghav, he had a new line he'd tell himself. I'm not missing out. I'm choosing. Can you feel the power in that? It's a simple sentence, but it flipped his whole perspective from being a victim to being in charge.
I mean, look at the difference here. This table just lays it out so clearly. Before, his thoughts were consumed by food. His whole day just revolved around it. But now, food was just a part of his day, not the main event. His focus went from constantly thinking about being hungry to having this clear mind and better focus.
And the feeling? Oh, this is the big one. That constant heaviness and guilt? It was replaced by something he honestly hadn't felt in years: genuine self-respect.
But you know what's really interesting? The biggest, most undeniable proof that he had changed didn't show up on his bathroom scale. Nope. It showed up somewhere else entirely. In his life, in his relationships. And it came in a way he absolutely never saw coming. Just imagine hearing this from your own child. This innocent, simple question from his daughter just hit him like a ton of bricks. Dad, why aren't you so angry anymore? Wow. It was in that exact moment that he realized the true weight he'd been carrying all this time. Because he wasn't just carrying extra body fat, was he? He was carrying the weight of all that guilt, the weight of the constant fatigue, the heavy, heavy weight of every single failed diet and every broken promise to himself. The pause, it wasn't just about his body. It was about lightening his entire spirit.
So when you boil it all down, If Journey gave him these incredible gifts, these proofs. First, it was proof that he wasn't a slave to his body's urges. He was in the driver's seat. Second, it was proof that real discipline doesn't have to be this massive, life-altering event. It can start with just one small decision. And third, and maybe this is the most important one, it was proof that healing doesn't always come from adding more stuff to your life. Sometimes it comes from the quiet, simple power of a pause.
And that right there is why this story is so important. Because if you think about it, this has never really been a story just about fat loss. That's just a side effect. This is a story about regaining authority. Yes, authority over your appetite, for sure, but something even deeper: authority over your own identity. Authority over the story you tell yourself about who you are.
So I'm just going to leave you with this one last question to think about. We live in a world that is constantly screaming at us to do more, add more, consume more. But what if the single most powerful health decision you could ever make isn't about adding anything new at all? What if it's about consciously and powerfully just creating a pause?